Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Chamblee Downtown Development Authority meeting for Tuesday, October 27th, 2020. We'll do the call to order, and I'll see if I can remember everybody. I'll just go down the list. Van?
Here.
Leslie?
Here.
Andy?
Here.
Brian?
Here.
Do we have Ronnie yet?
Dan's here.
Dan's here. And Robert is out. He had a conflict. I believe that's quorum. Anyone else? Let's get started. Has everyone had a chance to review the regular meeting minutes from September 22nd, 2020?
Motion to approve the regular meeting minutes for September 22nd, 2020.
Second.
All in favor? Let's go down the list. Van?
Aye.
Leslie?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Ronnie, if you're here?
I just got an email from her and she said she's going to keep trying.
Okay. That passes. Has everyone had a chance to review the executive session meeting minutes from September 22nd, 2020?
Motion to approve the executive session meeting minutes for September 22nd, 2020.
Second.
All in favor? Van?
Aye.
Leslie?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Ronnie? That passes. Moving on to the chair's report. I will keep this brief and relay the email that went out a few weeks ago. We sold the Chamblee Dunwoody Women's Center on October 14th. I believe it was. That closed with Rod Mullis over at Windsor Stevens. Their project with Gordon is now in their hands and not in ours anymore. That sold for $1.5 million. We bought it. Yep. Congrats everyone on the team, on the phone. This is really a great first domino to fall in the town center. I'm very excited about this project. It brings some much needed diversity to the development going on. We've got a lot of multifamily going up. We've delivered a lot of multifamily. This is going to be for sale condos and some street level retail. And we should net about 1.4 million off the sale roughly. And we purchased it for 1.3 back in 2017. So it was nice to control our own destiny here and get a good project. Congrats to everyone again, and looking forward to Rod's deal and officially welcoming him to Chamblee. Happy to have him.
I agree.
So again, just to reiterate the email that went around, we are using the funds to pay down the outstanding loan balance that we have. 100% of those net proceeds will go to pay that down, which will also buy down the amount of reserves that we need to hold at the bank by about 325 grand. So again, all positive, all good news, and now we can start focusing on the other projects. I think that's about all there is to talk about. We have specifics on deals that are outstanding, but we'll save that for the executive session. Any questions?
Not me.
Excellent. Moving on to the financial report.
All right, if everyone has reviewed their packet, I'll go over the highlights. Our current accounts in the Piedmont Bank debt service account, we've got $71,000 and change. In the operating account, we've got $318,000 and change. In the escrow account, we've got a little bit over $1,000 in change for a total of $390,935. I would also like to point out that if you go down on the balance sheet a little bit, it shows our long-term liabilities as of September 30th. That loan was basically 13.6 million. It will go to roughly 12.2 million once the proceeds from the sale of the women's centers have been paid to that loan. So that's really where we're at. Any questions?
Will we see the funds that are being held at the bank as part of our loan agreement on this balance sheet?
I do not believe so.
Okay.
Those funds are the city's funds, so they would not be in our P&L or balance sheet in any way.
Okay. No questions.
Nope.
Moving on. DDA property update. We just talked about the Gordon. We have our tables and chairs under contract and American Industrial / Chamblee Dunwoody Collision. I think there's a question out there. Nope, I'll keep going. Both those properties are under contract. We are continuing to push towards an eventual close. Both developers, buyers, purchasers are moving towards their zoning. I believe both are filing this month, but I'll let them speak to that. Probably Randy, if you want to give just a quick highlight of where you guys are with both those properties and process.
Randy, I think I unmuted you now, so you should be able to tell us.
Yep, that worked. Thank you, Catherine. Hello, everybody. And yes, we continue to make progress on tables and chairs building. And Rob, you are right. We are filing for zoning for our DCI this Thursday, the 29th. We had our pre-app meeting on Friday with Matt Dickinson and his team. I think it went well. Catherine was on that call. We have also met with 3 council members thus far. The mayor's up to speed with what we're doing. And so far, so good. So we continue to also be in the leasing market, making brokers aware of this opportunity. Some good initial interest, nothing yet. But the hope is we get through our zoning in early December. And by that time, the hope is that this title issue with the neighbor will be resolved. But moving forward as if it will be resolved, and hopeful for these next steps on the rezoning.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk about Darren's project, or if Darren wants to talk about it, just high level where you guys are.
Yeah. Darren, are you there?
I am.
Perfect. I knew you were. Go for it.
It gave me time. I'm actually at an Elite 8 volleyball match, but I was able to pop out thanks to your preview of your project. So everything's going great on ours. We're in a running parallel with Seven Oaks. We'll be filing our zoning application on Thursday. Super excited. Solved a number of architectural and engineering issues over the last 2 weeks. Had already previously met with elected officials and given them an overview of the project. Project continues to be sort of consistent with that. We've identified the primary investor who's reviewed the pro forma and really likes the opportunity and excited about what's going on in Chamblee. So that's kind of my update. Oh, by the way, we had our pre-app meeting with Matt and Jocelyn, and I am excited to say that they actually gave Worthing a B++ in our pre-app submittals, which I just note that for in the town center, we tried twice and we got failing grades both times. So I feel really, I feel like I've been trained. But no, the project's come together beautifully, and we're really excited to get it filed and begin to present it to all of the stakeholders.
Yeah, I want to echo that. I'm excited for both projects. It's going to be, it's going to change that whole corridor, and it's going to be exciting to watch. Thank you, guys. Do we have any questions, comments?
I think it's going to be a catalyst.
Absolutely.
And Rob,
Rob,
if you want to talk about town center or wait till executive session, not much of a report, but however you want to handle it.
Well, no, I'll talk about it now. And I think there is some meat to talk about. We sat down with myself, Randy, Darren, the mayor, and John Walker, and just kind of talked about the issues that we're having on getting shovels in the ground. And really it comes down to the financing of the project. And the question was basically proposed, would the city like to step in at this point in time and help fund, some of the infrastructure, some of the utilities, site work, and the parking deck to get this project moving forward in the absence of having any sort of pre-leasing done on the office building. And looking at everything that we have going on, we as in the DDA, and yet everything that the city has going on, looking at the current economic climate with COVID and all the unknowns, the general message, and I won't speak for the mayor or John Walker, but the general message was we're happy to wait. We think we can maybe cross that bridge a year from now. I think that might be Randy's feedback.
Oh, is that me? I'll mute. Hold on.
And or maybe Darren, but the city didn't want to fund that part of the project today. Not to say that it might not be an option further down the road, but they were happy with just letting the marketing process play out, letting the leasing move forward, to the extent that it can, and just revisiting this in about 12 months, maybe. So really nothing to update other than nothing has changed. We're still pushing forward with pre-leasing on the office space. Seven Oaks is continuing to market the property, and we're continuing to look at tenants. Randy or Darren, I don't know if you want to add to anything or add any color to that, what I just said, or correct me if I was way off base.
No, I think that's spot on. I think that we do continue to work on it, and certainly we hope things to break loose sooner, as well as if we can continue to make progress on the American Industrial Way properties. Not only, as Leslie said, does that provide a good catalyst, it provides funding back to the city, and maybe that opens up some options. So focusing on the things that we can control right now, and continuing to get the message out to both the leasing market as well as the financial markets. Darren, I may have spoken over you. You want to add on?
That's okay. The time that I was able to get with potential invest capital sources on American Industrial to the town center project. The other out of the Carolinas area. So it's a challenging environment.
A lot of static.
Yeah, Darren, we're getting a lot of feedback or a lot of static. I think what he's alluding to is he's still continuing to have, the conversations with investors.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. I think in conjunction with the collision site, the messaging to the investors is also talking about town center, making them aware of that. We are doing the same thing on the office front as we're talking to our investor partners, but I think that's generally the message.
And I'll jump in and just add something that was kind of neat when I sat on the pre-app meeting for Darren's project on American Industrial, and the fact that and this may have changed, but they're talking about incorporating similar design elements with his portion of Town Center and American Industrial to get kind of a kind of cohesive project and projects. So I think it's going to be a complement to the Town Center project. My 2 cents. Any questions, guys, on Town Center?
Nope.
Vintage Pizza Lot, nothing to really talk about there. We do need to start to think about that property, but we've got plenty in front of us. Moving on, Public Art Commission update.
Yeah, I told y'all last month, I believe it was, that we can add this to the agenda just for a monthly update. Currently, the Public Art Commission, which just started meeting, was just formed in May. They're working on a couple projects and are finalizing their plan for 2021. Part of the Arts Master Plan requires that the Public Art Commission create essentially like a budget plan for the upcoming year. That the 2021 draft of that plan includes 2 of the projects that they've been working on. One is a mural that will go on the side of the public safety building. The next steps for that is kind of engaging the community organizations in the Buford Highway area, putting out an RFQ for artists, and getting public involvement in selecting the piece of art that will end up on there. The second big project the group is working on is a temporary art installation on the fence along Peachtree Road at the MARTA rail station. It's in that block that's in between Malone and Miller Drives. And we've already gotten in touch we've been working with MARTA on it. Some of you might have noticed MARTA actually did a great job. They limbed up some of the trees. It's the area where there's a grassy area and at least 20 to 30 trees that were kind of overgrown. So they limbed those up, and we'd like to kind of do a fun design on the fence there. And Councilmember Lupton's reached out to a couple of the art students and the arts teachers at the nearby schools, and we've also reached out to the Southeast Fine Arts group, Fiber Arts group, to get their involvement in that too. That won't happen until probably around March because we're waiting, of course, for the Peachtree Road streetscapes to be complete. And also we want slightly nicer weather than January and February weather to get that out there. And it should be up. Right now we're kind of penciling in it'll be up for about 7 or 8 months. And then there's a couple other projects they're working on. Once the art plan for 2021 gets finalized, which should be next month, I'll present that at the DDA meeting so you guys have a better idea of what's going on. But they've got a lot of fun ideas.
Excellent. Local business?
Hello. I just wanted to give you guys an update on some of the things that we're seeing in our business community. As you know, this hasn't been a great time for many of our businesses. Some are doing extremely well, but most of our businesses are obviously not. We did a business survey last month that we wanted to present the results to council. And we tried to keep it fairly short, so it's only, I believe, 6 questions total, 7 if you include the open feedback at the end. And not surprisingly, over 94% of our businesses responded they were affected by COVID-19 in a negative way. And And going from there, there's just the information here just shows that, you know, the revenue that's lost has been highly lost has been between 26 to 75%. There's a small percentage that was less than that, and then a small percentage that lost between 76 and 100%. So you can tell that there's a lot of damage that's been done here. We asked what kind of assistance they'd find helpful during this time, and not surprisingly, business grants were high on that list, but also no or reduced cost promotions and you know, consultations was one of them, and then general promoting of business. So I think there's a real opportunity for us to serve there. And if there was financial assistance needed, we asked how much they would need. The majority of folks indicated between $10,000 and $20,000 would be needed. And then there are quite a few folks that also said over $20,000 would be needed to help pivot some of their business. Quite a few of our businesses also did receive the Paycheck Protection Program. That was actually in the 80%, which surprised me. So there has been some financial help. I just don't think it was necessarily enough to get through the long-term impacts of things. But it's not all bad news. We've seen quite a few businesses actually open. I visited a business earlier today that's pretty innovative. They were supposed to open up a gym. It was a virtual reality gym, which sounds really interesting. But they've pivoted instead. They're selling the equipment for you to do workouts at home. And so it's more of a showroom for people to come test out the equipment on a consultant or a one-on-one basis, and then be able to purchase the equipment. So we're hearing of great stories of pivoting and some different ways that people are being innovative. But we just have to figure out ways that we can promote our community and our businesses here so that people understand the impact of their dollar and making sure that they're supporting our local businesses. And I think we're doing that fairly well. We've got some good stuff coming out in the next couple of months for Shop Small and a Buy Local campaign. So we're excited to get that information to you guys too as we roll that out. You guys have any questions?
Is there any way to tell which businesses are being more impacted negatively, which ones are you know, doing okay or well or thriving?
We didn't get that granular in our survey, but just from the conversations that I'm having, you know, it's probably what you would expect. Retail, walk-in retail is struggling tremendously. Most of our restaurants are having a pretty hard time too, but you know, some of them have gotten really innovative and have figured out ways to make that work still. Same with our retailers. They're figuring it out. It's just not necessarily thriving right now. We have a couple of manufacturers and our like food production businesses that are doing very well. We have one who produces different types of components for defense, and they're doing great. So, you know, it just kind of depends on who you're talking to on how things are going. And, you know, as Leslie mentioned earlier, anything with home improvement or outdoor space, that's also going to be doing really well. So it just kind of depends.
Well, I wonder if there's a way that we could gear how we look at these different businesses and their problems and help them be creative in solving those problems, not just giving them money to, you know, carry on or whatever, but, you know, a lot of business models are going to have to change. And
yes,
it's not going to be a short-term thing. So how do we help them innovate?
Yeah, so we've been pointing folks to resources. There's plenty of opportunities through the small business development centers that are doing trainings on how to go online or how to be creative in their business and pivot in a different way that allows them to continue operating. I was listening the other day to a retail webinar that's saying that, you know, right now, while walk-in business may not be, you know, thriving, folks don't believe that that's going away in the long term, that it's just a temporary glitch. Once this is, over, I know it's taking a while, but it's how do we get folks through that and innovate now so that they're even stronger when we get through this.
Yeah.
We're finding ways to do that, and we're having conversations with folks, and I think it gets their wheels turning. Unfortunately, we can't do that for every business because there's and we don't have the expertise in every business, but we can point them to resources that would be better suited for that conversation.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Thanks.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. Moving on, old business. The facade grant application. Can you guys remind me of where we landed with the motion last month on what the adjustments and changes would be?
Yeah, so the changes that we agreed on was to make the application a little bit more flexible, where it didn't have to be an exact match. I think we had half of the project up to $5,000, and not capping it at that, at the DDA's discretion. They could increase that. So Laura updated the application and information on the website. And we had asked Mario to come back, given that, and update his application. And Mario, I think I have you unmuted, so if you want to add anything, you can. But then I'll open the floor up to the board to see if they have any additional questions or if you guys want to add anything to that.
Thank you. And thank you, Mario, for your patience and coming back. I think you're self-muted if you're speaking.
There we go. Thank you. Appreciate the program, and obviously all y'all's sense of service is doing a great thing for downtown Chamblee. We moved downtown Chamblee to start our business. Our business was one of the ones that really benefited. We do outdoor environments, and we do plant delivery systems. So we greatly benefited from this horrible kind of episode. But what we want to do is really make a statement with our facade on who we are and what we do and how we do it. And to do that through a program like this enables us to use really great material and really make a statement about our business. So we're excited. We turned in an application. We'd love to participate in this program and really make our facade shine.
Awesome, thank you. Do you know, is Lennox Cupcakes, are they going to be coming to us at some point? I know we've talked about it in the past, but just kind of curious on where they are as well.
Yeah, they are. To capture economies of scale, I was getting quotes for both Lennox Cupcakes and our facade, which is right next to her, 5388. And so she went ahead and proceeded with her canopy. I waited just to ensure that this application went through okay. But really, she wanted to go ahead and continue with that. We are going to, again, try to find ways to capture more, a few more dollars, as we are getting the same contractor to do pressure washing for all of both buildings and some other light little cleanup and fix up things. So I know that she's excited about turning in her application next month.
Okay, great. So she's got more work to do, you're saying?
Yes, she has a sign. Yeah, she has a sign, also windowsills that need and carpentry work and other minor things that really kind of can make a difference, especially for people walking by downtown.
Great. And any idea where her cost might end up?
I have no idea.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Catherine, can you scroll down so we can take a look at the, there we go. So the total project cost is going to be $7,500. The funds requested is 5,000. What is the total investment? The total $10,000. What does that represent?
We did some minor repairs to the back of the property as well. Basically, because that parking lot is so publicly facing, we created a new area for parking for our trash cans, and going to be doing some other nice things with plantings and planters in the back to make the facade in the back of the property just as nice as the front.
Awesome. Thank you. So to the board, we've amended the facade grant rules. The request is for 5,000. It sounds like we can be flexible, really in whatever we want to do. At this point, I'll open it up to you guys to discuss what you want.
Am I reading this right? So Mario, the total cost of what you're spending is $7,500.
For the front facade. Yes, sir.
If no one has any questions, I say we just go ahead and approve the request and get this done. Is there any reason why we shouldn't move forward now, Rob?
No, not at all. I guess my one question would be internally, what is our total budgeted amount for the program for 2020?
It was 30,000.
Yeah, it still is.
Okay. And nobody's come to us this year yet for a facade grant?
No, Mario's the first.
Okay.
So, I mean, I would think that, you know, since we only have 2 months left, we know that Linux Cupcakes is probably going to come at some point, and I would assume it'll be a similar cost, maybe, you know, about the same. So we're talking about only using about a third of our total budget for these two.
Yeah, I would agree. I would like to deploy the dollars and use them for what they're supposed to be used for.
All right, well, if no one else wants to do it, I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the requested application for facade grant for, I don't see the address, whatever the address is.
Catherine, can you scroll up?
I can't second my own motion, so.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Leslie, do we lose you?
You're muted, Leslie.
She's probably been speaking the whole time.
Hello.
Yes.
There you are.
There, thank you very much. I've been muted this whole time, and I did have something that I wanted to add. I think Mario has done a great job with the back, and it is a pleasure to see that there is something other than dumpsters and nasty holes in the ground back there. And I'm all in favor, and I would have seconded it if I could have been heard. I'm all in favor of granting this.
Excellent. Ronnie? Not here.
I think she's having the same problem as I am.
Yeah, I don't think Ronnie's actually able to join. I think the Wi-Fi in her house isn't working. She's not on the call. Don't worry, I'm taking notes. They won't be as good as hers, but I'm doing double duty.
So that passes. Thank you, Mario.
Thank you all. Appreciate your service.
Thanks, Mario.
Main Street beautification projects. I don't know if there's much to hit on here this month. We started collecting some thoughts and ideas on what we'd like to do. My general comment here is I think we just need to pick something and try to push it forward as far as we can get it. Some of the stuff that we've talked about are doing a pilot program for large flower pots to be installed along Peachtree Road. Solar benches, benches with wayfinding concepts and digital displays, art, street banners to hang from the new flagpoles or light lampposts, I guess. I'm in favor of all of it, but I'd really like to narrow this stuff down and find something that we can just kind of pick and push forward. And I'll leave it up to the group.
I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
I've talked with Mario, speaking of, and he has a great idea for the planters, which of course his business can do. I don't think that we as a DDA have to put out an RFQ or RFP. And I would like to consider having that conversation with him as a whole for us to talk about the planters, because that, I think his idea is good. I'm not going to try to explain it. As far as the benches go, I don't think that's a good idea. That's signage. That's something that's is a lot more complicated. I think that the banners is something that the city will do and should do. We've done them in the past. We've let them get old, but it's time for us to get back on that. And what was the fourth one?
Art.
All right. We've got the Arts Commission working on it. So
Great.
I think that focusing on the planters, the Peachtree Road project is moving along. It's finally gaining a touch of momentum. I'm optimistic. And it will take us the amount of time that it will to finish the project for the DDA to come together on a plan and an implementation plan for planters. And I think that that is probably going to be the most low-hanging fruit that we can try to achieve, or try to pick, if you will. So that's my suggestion.
I love it. And to the extent that we can, support a local business, that'd be fantastic. Do you have a general idea of where this would go?
Well, along Peachtree Road, of course. I think that what Mario Cambardella suggested was that we can do the planters. We can do them. They could be a seasonal thing. They can be something that lasts for 9 months or a year. Mario, I don't know if you're still on, but then we can auction them off or sell them. So I think that it probably would be best if we sat down with Mario, or just you, really, and sit down with Mario and find out what his suggestions are, and the gist of his suggestions anyways, and the cost estimation and all that kind of stuff. And that would be something that we would work over the winter time and implement in the spring.
I like it.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say to the rest of the items would be the street banners. If the city comes up with a cost and we can support it, or help fund it or do something, that'd be great. But yeah, let's focus on the planners.
Mm-hmm.
Questions from the board, comments? Next steps. Should we circle up with Mario and come up with a
Yes.
a list of ideas?
Yes. Well, idea and implementation.
Yep. Board, do you guys have anything to add to that, or anything you guys want us to focus on?
The only other thing that I do want to say is that, all the little outlets that are along the sidewalks that are being put in on Peachtree Road.
All 100,000 of them, yeah.
All 100 million of them. Some of them have been taken out, if I'm not mistaken. Those are intended, and maybe more of them have to come out, but those are intended for lights on the trees that are going to be put in, hopefully over the winter time. So that might be another thing that we want to look at. Maybe we can help implement that.
If we
But
can, we should.
beyond that, yeah.
Okay. Going once, going twice. I don't think there's a motion. A needed
Don't
motion.
know that we, yeah, I don't know we have to have a motion yet. Let's get Mario to make a proposal.
Perfect. Moving on, new business, SLX annual tax calculation.
This one, Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you. Let me, so SLX sit in their 2020 calculation. And I had Dan take a look at, because there's a couple issues, outstanding issues that we still have to deal with on the SLX. And Harrison was working on that, but Harrison's not with Cypher Shaw anymore. So I know we have to get back on top of that, because we also haven't finalized that MOU for the extension, and we need to figure out, it sounds like the calculations might have been wrong last year. Is that right, Dan? Or what we decided was year one, shouldn't have been year one? There's some confusion there. It takes some time to...
No, we spent a good bit of time looking at it in the last few days, and that led to the questions that we had recently. You may recall we have a specified year one, so it's not the year one after the CO was issued. We also had an annual report submitted last year, which we looked at, which was not consistent with the provisions of the MOU, but which we basically agreed to accept. And some of the differences, let me get the MOU amendment up. Hang on. Some of the differences were that they were taking a credit for the pilots paid. I mean, you can make an economic case for that, but that's not necessarily what the MOU says. But where the board left it for purposes of last year is that we would essentially accept that report and grant the extension and create an MOU amendment and a spreadsheet that would be the model going forward. It looks like that this year they followed what we accepted last year. It also looks like that this was about the time, I think, that Dave left the board, but I haven't found a record of where I sent the MOU amendment off along with the spreadsheet and got an okay back on that. So Catherine's exactly right. What we need to do is to approve an MOU amendment with an attached spreadsheet. But you know, some questions were raised on it as to whether they have been properly calculating, and the answer is no compared to the MOU requirements, but yes compared to what we agreed to do. A more recent question has to do with whether they have actually been making property tax payments, and I don't think that's the case. It may be, but I don't think it's the case, because I think what they did was to run what the MOU, what the annual report refers to as a hypothetical tax assessment. So long story short, it looks like they are, and I think this would be the same number I mentioned last year, that they're about $74 off in the calculations, which is not enough to get upset about. But what I want to do is to get some of Catherine's time, and Rob, we may need yours too, but I want to work through with Catherine first, to work through last year and this year to make sure that they did in fact this year follow the spreadsheet. And again, it looks like they did. And secondly, to actually get the numbers of what they have been paying, because I've got the documents, I've got the report, but I don't have any evidence of payment. So what I would suggest that we do is not act on it tonight, unless the board wants to authorize it subject to the chair's approval, because I do think we're close on it. But run those traps and send the board some information before the meeting next month.
Dan, should I set up a meeting between the two of us and Daniel, their accountant, or do you want just the two of us to meet first, and then we can go to SLX and the accountant?
I think the two of us should meet first, and I'll include Danny Mack, my law clerk, who's helping with this. I don't think that there was, I don't think Harrison and the accountant were communicating. So I want us to communicate, make sure that we're on the same page, and that the checks that have been cut are, actually cut and actually match the reports. And my recollection is that they did. And then based on that, we may or may not need to go back to the accountant. I don't believe we need to reset. There was some suggestion that we reset year one again, but nothing I have seen indicates that we need to do that the extension was what it was. They have gotten their CO, I understand. Was it this year, Catherine, they got their CO in 2020?
That's correct.
All right, so that accounts for some of the differences are larger costs and larger amounts used in the calculation of taxes. I'm looking up there. Yep, that's right, costs incurred and hypothetical tax assessment. So my guess is that these things are all going to check out, that we don't need to do a further amendment of anything, but we do need to put in place the MOU amendment that was drafted earlier and the spreadsheet that was drafted earlier, so that we don't have to do this again next year. If we come back and say, this is the spreadsheet, this is the MOU amendment, insert the numbers there, provide some evidence of payment, then it'll be automatic next year instead of us having to look back the year before like we're having to do right now. But yeah, I think you and I ought to talk first, and we may or may not need to talk to the accountant.
Okay, I'll set up a meeting tomorrow.
Okay. It does look like his calculations of present value were correct. That's also one thing I wanted to check, and it looks like it's okay.
Let me know if you need me. Happy to help.
I'll spare you if you can. I know that you do like spreadsheets, but hopefully we're within inches of getting this done.
I don't know, lawyers and numbers always make me a little uneasy.
Hey, I love spreadsheets, so I'm more than happy if you need me.
A volunteer.
You said the magic word, spreadsheet.
That's funny.
God help me, I do love them, but they do need to be right.
Thank you, Dan. GE easement request.
All right, do you want me to plunge into that?
Yes, please.
We have a request from an adjacent landowner for an easement across land that was titled to us by one of our prospects at Peachtree Crossing. It has to do with environmental testing on the adjacent landowner site. There's a couple of things. The first is that since we're not the beneficial owner, we're the legal title holder, but we're not the beneficial owner of the economic interest in the land, and what we can do and not do is defined by the lease. So you wouldn't expect the lease to grant us the authority to grant easements for the benefit of an adjacent landowner, and it doesn't. So there are two things involved. First is that SLX, the lessee, not SLX, Peachtree Crossing, the lessee, and the authority need to grant approval for this, number one. Secondly, the easement agreement needs to be what it should be, and it largely is. But then lastly, we need to be alert to the fact that we're being asked to test on our land may raise some issue about, is there seepage from an adjacent site onto land that's titled to us that we should be concerned about. And again, it's not, I don't know whether y'all are familiar with this or not, but this is not unusual. When you've got an environmental condition, one of the things you do want to do is to monitor the adjacent landowner, which is us in this case, to make sure that that seepage is not taking place. So the mere fact of it is not necessarily a red flag, but we do need to have more information about what's going on. So the form of the access agreement that's before the board has some language in between brackets as to what we need from GE, the adjacent landowner. So my suggestion tonight is that we approve this agreement subject to later approval by the chair once we've got that information, so you don't have to vote on it again. And the chances are that everything's the way that it should be. But there's a little bit of due diligence that needs to be done to make us fully aware of what's going on next door. There's nothing wrong with the easement agreement or the access agreement, but let's take this opportunity to find out what's happening next door.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We've got several questions. Do we need to run this through Serafrim and
Yeah.
play middleman
Yes,
on
and
this?
Catherine,
Make sure
we do, and Catherine's doing that.
Yeah, I've been seeing Trisha, who's the property manager there, kind of up to date. She was just waiting for us to put that agreement together.
And so the reason for the easement, I would assume, is they're being required to perform a phase 2 and they need to drill some well sites.
I don't know if it's a phase 2 or whether it's part of a agreement, one of the brownfield agreements that's made in order to get a no further action and an exemption from liability. You have to do some things, and monitoring is part of those things. And I don't know that they're doing a phase 2 now. They may be, but my guess is it's because it's something they have to do to maintain their exemption from environmental liability.
So you don't know that they're planning on doing something different with their property?
I know nothing about what they're doing on the property. Catherine might, but I don't know.
No, I mean, I know, Rob, you said you had heard some rumblings, but as far as I know, GE told us that they're not going anywhere.
They've always said that. But I'm wondering if there's not some leakage that they've got going on.
My concern is,
sorry.
Yeah, no, you're asking the right question. My concern is that we drill some well sites, and they find things. What are we and or Serafim going to be, responsible for? And
are they going to try to couple it with the stuff that came off of the white chemical, that was on, that is always going to be on the Whole Foods site? I mean, because they're directly behind. So
that's right. If it's coming from our site, I'm wondering if they're going to try to some remediation and that stuff, or does the whole brownfield program kind of keep us from having to deal with that?
Yeah.
Let me offer something that'll make you feel better. We have a blanket indemnity from our lessee against all environmental claims. It doesn't have to be their fault. And that's because we're taking title as an accommodation. If we did not hold title, they'd have this problem. And if it's a problem, it's anybody's problem but ours, as far as the lease is concerned.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of, this is why, Serafrim needs to kind of weigh in on it, because it's really their problem.
One question.
I guess
I'm sorry,
depending on what they come back with, Serafrim, are we going to agree to do this? What if they come back and say, no, we don't want you to grant them access?
Well, we don't, first of all, we can't. If they say that, then we can't, because we need their consent. So that's the end of it.
I had a couple of questions that I put in an email, and you answered one of them about Serafim, but the other two, one was, does this in any way conflict with anything as far as city codes, do we need to be worried about? Do we have to get approval from the city? And the other question is, how does this affect if for whatever reason it looked like from what I could see that this is a 3-year agreement? So what if the property is sold within that 3 years? Does that affect us in any way, having that during a sale?
Whose property then? GE's property?
No, if Seraphim decided to sell in the 3-year period that this went on, is it in any way cause us any distress?
No, this would burden the land, and the buyer would be subject to it.
And
So it wouldn't
Catherine-
cause the
and Catherine,
DDA
as far as
stress,
the
but it
city
might.
code, is there any reason to worry about any city code revolving around them doing this on our property?
I don't think so. I had a question out to our planning director. He's just out of the office this week, but I don't think so, because this is a requirement that the county requires. So I think we have a number of places that have this.
All right.
Can you guys
I'm
hear me?
good.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got kicked off. You guys probably solved the world's problems, but I guess what's the ask that we approve the access agreement?
Basically, to authorize the chair to execute and deliver the access agreement when he's satisfied with it. And that'll be after we get the information required by this stuff in between the brackets and bold caps.
I've got one question before we go to make that motion. Is there anything in this document that they have to inform us and the property owners of the findings of the monitoring?
Let me check.
Good
Legally,
question.
if they find anything, it'll be documented. But
Yeah, I mean, I know it'll go to the state, but it would be nice to
Right.
get it directly just to know.
Well, it's not really something that is within their control, because this is being done pursuant to agreement with EPD. And that's the government. Once the government it's not like they can keep it quiet. Let me look and see if there's anything specific in here.
I mean, my question is, do we need to defer to the developer?
Brian, that's in section 6. GE shall also provide all final laboratory report. Oh, y'all have got it on the screen. Yeah, go ahead. Data.
Excellent. That answers my question.
So is the motion we need to move to accept or pursue?
I think the motion is to authorize the chair.
When he is satisfied to execute and deliver the agreement. So if something comes up, Rob won't be happy with it, and we won't execute it and deliver it.
So moved.
Assuming things go as we expect they will, it'll be okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Andy?
Aye.
Excellent. That passes. I'm flying blind here, so I'm going to need some help with the agenda.
Executive session.
Yeah, we're done with the regular session, so we just need to go into executive session now.
Motion to go into executive session pursuant to OCGA for the purpose of discussing or approving a real estate transaction.
Do we have a second?
Second.